I'm Bill, and this is the second section of the 8th part of my little life lessons I've learned called expectations. I mentioned in the last video about people's attitudes that I particularly like, the deal with it as it come attitude. I've encountered this a few times. No one could explain how they have this attitude or what allowed them to develop this attitude. As I mentioned before, my upbringing allowed me or caused me to expect the best attitude. And I know people that have been raised and brought up by parents that it wasn't the best upbringing, and they always had expect the worst attitude. Glasses half full versus the glasses half empty. A positive attitude versus a negative attitude, or some would say a realist attitude. I learned that being a realist or being overly negative or pessimistic does not really bode well around people, and being overly optimistic and positive can be equally annoying. And well, that's a product of your upbringing. That third stage I mentioned about planning and expecting everything, well, that was mine. I don't know if anyone has that. I know people do plan for a lot of eventualities, but I don't know. I haven't encountered many people. It's hard to read people in this regard. All you can do is see how they react. You can see people get angry when they don't get what they want or their expectations aren't met by reality. But this last stage, I do feel people have it, and I do think it's a matter of upbringing. What you can, I think, let me put it another way. Expectations, whatever you might have of the world, they're affected in a big way by how you were brought up. If you wanted something as a kid and you didn't get it, well, that probably means, expect the worst. If you did get it, you might expect the best. And I don't know what circumstance would create a person that would have them just wait and see. I don't know. I haven't met any parents I haven't really even discussed this with people that have children. I don't have children myself, so I can't really comment. But I don't know how parents raise children to have this attitude. It'd be interesting to find out what they do, how they raise them. But this wait and see attitude was very intriguing. And I eventually, after this third stage failed me too many times, I took another approach. This other approach was what I like to term expect anything. Basically, anything is possible. Right now, a bolt of lightning could come out of this sky and hit me, and I'm dead. A snake could crawl up and bite me in these bushes here, and I'll die, or I'll get hurt, or lose my leg. A bullet might fly from someone that shot a gun in the air and hit me in the head, giving me a headache. A nuclear bomb might be flying right now toward this city, and I'll be dead in 5 minutes, and no one's telling me about it. Anything could happen. So, with that in mind, I said, okay, well, let's think about that. Anything could happen. Anything is possible to happen, and I need to, well, how do you deal with that? Well, you simply, and it kind of put a smile on my face when I answered the question, you wait and see. And I'm like, oh, that's what they do. All these people that have this wait and see attitude basically simply expect anything to happen, know they have no control over it, and just react or act based upon the patterns they see or the situation they're in. And it was very intriguing. I never considered it. Because if you think about this whole idea of expectations, it's about control or a sense of control. If you put expectations on something that's relatively random and created by 7 billion plus life forms acting and reacting, making decisions that ultimately is tied into some cosmic and internal planetary events, you create what our reality is. We can't control that. And when we try to expect things of reality or of this world, that's all we're doing. We're trying to control it, trying to put some sense of control on it. And if you expect the best or the worst or try to plan for everything, that's all you're doing. You are just trying to exert some control. Well, let me tell you something. As an individual, you have limited control of yourself and even less control of your immediate surroundings. Everything else, anything goes. And because of that, this wait and see attitude is the best attitude to have, is the best type of expectations to have. You expect everything, anything. You don't plan for it, you don't think about it. Sure, if I see a nuclear blast to my right, I might think about getting behind a tree, but that's not going to do anything. We all know that. So this wait and see attitude really is the best one so far. I haven't found anything better to go on. Now, it's not to say that I don't get angry and mad occasionally. Sometimes repetition in life, in work, can make you believe that this same pattern is going to be repeated over and over again. But you know for a fact that's not going to happen. Your car is not always going to start in the morning. You're not always going to be on time. Your kids are not always going to listen to you. You are not always going to sell that client on whatever you're trying to sell. Things will happen that go beyond that pattern that you have had repeat itself over and over and over again. So it's easy to develop expectations for repetitious activities over the course of time. And it happens to me, it happens to everybody, and you get mad and you get angry and you have all these negative thoughts and you take it out on others. Ultimately, this is why I think this lesson's important. If we want to avoid all this negativity, all this anger and irritation, all of this negative behavior toward ourselves and our fellow man, our children, our co-workers, you name it, we need to work toward this wait and see attitude. You can't worry about something you can't control. You have to accept you can't control the world around us. So if you just take a moment and consider you don't have any control. Now, you might have a lot of money and power, and you might have a lot of yes men, you might have a whole army of people that doing everything that you want, but that's just a bubble of fake reality. The world isn't going to bow to you. If you are spoiled, and if you have the money to maintain this spoiled attitude, well, that's your decision. But the reality is not that. The reality is anything could happen. Somebody could come to your house, kill you and all your army of yes men, and you won't have anything to do to stop them. You might have armed guards, but they might have more armed guards. You might have the best security system. Someone will just cut the power to the security system. But the whole point here is try at least to consider how much better it would be if you just wait and see what happens and react. Learn to react on the environment around you as things happen and unfold. And you might find that life is better for you and maybe better for people around you. Because ultimately in this world, your happiness is dependent upon the happiness of people around you. And if you want to live a good life, a happy life without anger without irritation, without violence in many cases, then the best thing to do is just accept this overall attitude. Because in the end, I assume you want to live at least a good life. You want life or the world to treat you in the best possible way. And if you quit forcing your expectations on life, I'm sure you're going to find that life will treat you far better than it may or may not be treating you now. And with that, I'm going to end this. And I will say this one last thing. For me personally, the moment I started to accept that I couldn't control the world, I couldn't control the reality around me, and I accepted the fact that anything could happen and I just had to wait and deal with it as it came, my life got turned a complete, 180, I guess, turned around completely. And now, I still have a few expectations that come out from the repetitious patterns of going to work and getting up in the morning and going to sleep at night and driving on the road, but I still have them, which I can't help. It's kind of hard right now for me to get rid of those. Deep down, it doesn't last long. The irritation, the anger doesn't last long, maybe 30 seconds before I kind of put it in check, but it's there still. For the most part though, I have a better life, or at least my interactions with the world are a lot better than they used to be. So I'll end it, and you guys have a good one. Be better today than you were yesterday.